So, hello everybody again with TheBallBlog.com. So, in this matchup, we'll be going over the 4th-seeded Atlanta Hawks and the 5th-seeded Boston Celtics, who finished with the same exact regular season record of 48-34. So, what you have with the Celtics, this is Isaiah Thomas, is you have Isaiah Thomas, who's much better, he's the star of the roster, and Avery Bradley and Jay Crowder are definitely the next two best players there. But after that, you have a lot of decent players, just from their 4th best guy to their 11th best guy. They can go so many ways. Brad Stevens with the starting lineup any given night. I'm assuming here, let's just go with Jared Sullinger and Amir Johnson at the big man spots. They can go so many other ways. Kelly Olynyk's been getting a lot of minutes, of course. But yes, Isaiah Thomas, he's short. He's 5'10" or something, but he's fast. He can shoot. He can drive. He can pass the basketball. He is not an easy man to guard. Avery Bradley used to be known just for his defense this season. He's been the 2nd best scorer on Boston. Crowder just a fantastic all-around player. So there's Boston starting 5 for you. To compare that with Atlanta starting 5. So here we have Jeff Teague, who's been the point guard in Atlanta since forever, even though he's not that old. Yeah, doesn't make entirely sense, but so here we got Kent Bazemore, the shooting guard, who's had to step into the starting lineup after DeMarre Carroll this offseason signed with the Raptors. And Kyle Korver, who age is catching up to him. He's still a great three-point shooter, not the kind of player he once was, still helpful with his spacing that he provides. But of course, Atlanta's known for their big men duo of Paul Millsap and Al Horford. Great rebounding pair. They can each shoot. They've each been expanding their range. For sure, we know Horford's going to be a free agent this offseason. A lot of rumors about that. Does Atlanta want to cough up that money that he might be demanding? Either way, this playoff series, he'll be playing for them, and he'll be playing well for them. So, Boston's bench is actually among the best in the league, as you can infer by the format of their roster. As I said, like the 4th best player and the 10th best player, not a lot of difference. So, Marcus Smart, the youngster, Evan Turner, who's Brad Stevens makes a point to bring off the bench, leading their 2nd unit as a 6th man, one of the candidates for 6th man of the year. Jonas Jerebko, Kelly Olynyk, and Tyler Zeller. Again, so many ways, even when choosing the second 5 of this Celtic roster. But yeah, again, a very solid 2nd unit. They rarely get outscored. Yeah. So with Atlanta's 2nd unit, Dennis Schroeder, the point guard, young prospect. He's got the little nice spot in his hair here. He's one of the most, in my opinion, underrated, overlooked players in the entire league. He's a fantastic player, yet no one's heard of him. He's Jeff Teague's backup. Look this guy up, Dennis Schroeder. He is the real deal. He's an excellent prospect on this Atlanta team. Thabo Sefolosha, not quite in his glory days like he was in OKC. Still a good player, 3-point shooting, defending. He can do that stuff. Tim Hardaway Jr., he's plateaued since his impressive rookie year in New York, which is a little concerning. Still a solid player, bringing off the bench is nice. And this is the issue for Atlanta. Since Thiago Splitter got injured, Mike Scott and Chris Humphries, as well as Mike Muscala, are the backups for Horford and Millsap, which is a little concerning. Not a lot of great depth there. Splitter's injury was tough. Right. So ultimately, this series I predicted, and it has been a defensive slugfest. Both these teams are excellent defensively, and it's been a low-scoring series thus far. But Hawks ultimately are a better rebounding plus efficiency team. I actually wrote that before the series began, but the Celtics have been held to 31.8% shooting and 36.3% shooting. It's not that Atlanta's fared significantly better. They have fared a little bit better. Again, both teams shooting rather poorly. And yes, again, Atlanta is out rebounding Boston, giving them more possessions, which are all the more key in a defensive slugfest. And then, of course, just by the basic format of Boston's roster, they're suited for the exhausting marathon that is the regular season. But in the playoffs, your rotations are cut. You want to play your best players more. By the format of their roster, that's not a significant advantage to Boston, as, again, there's a blur between their fourth and their 10th best players. Unlike with Atlanta, who once you go from Horford and Millsap, the big men, to Humphreys and Muscala, again, these teams are about even if they finish with the same record overall. But I'm saying the cutting the rotation gives Atlanta more of an advantage than it gives Boston based on the format of their roster. And of course, the Hawks already won the first two games. The first one was by 1 point, where Hawks actually had a big lead, but Boston almost came back all the way. There hasn't been a lot of consistent scoring. In game two, Kyle Korver and Al Horford led all scorers with 17 points, but nonetheless, Atlanta's getting scoring, even if Paul Millsap has disappointed. Um, yeah, Boston has no other consistent source this series other than Isaiah Thomas. And ultimately, I think Boston will recoup. Those two games were in Atlanta and only lose the series 4-3, but they will lose this series 4-3, and I am taking Atlanta. So comment telling me what you guys think. Atlanta in 7, TheBallBlog.com.